so my own approach to understanding, and both understanding and practicing magic, begins in this awareness, of the fact that I never do anything else other than perform. Yeah, I perform. I perform an image, I perform an identity, and I would say that this is also what distinguishes the magically oriented people from the lay people, or from the ones that don't have magical awareness. It's like, to give an example, to concretize, you get up in the morning, you don the costume, you put on your lipstick, and you are ready to go out and seduce your boss or whoever needs seducing, or you are ready to conquer the world, right? Now, most people would think that these acts, right, they're just like normal. It's like you being in the world, you being Camellia Elias or whoever, or Oana, or yeah. So, but that's not it, I mean, who is this name, and and what's so natural about it? Nothing at all, So people don't realize that we are always forever acting under a spell of enchantment, So when I get up and don the dress with a particular purpose, what I do is enchant myself, and then through my own self-enchantment, I'm hoping implicitly to also enchant the world, So when people ask me, how do you reconcile your logical mind with this other thing? And I'm like, well, I'm just pointing to what we actually do as a matter of course, right? And then I say, however, how many of us hold that awareness? Yeah, again, most people, they think that all of these acts, they're just part of their normal identity, right? Well, I beg to disagree. There is nothing normal about our identity. Yeah, nothing at all. It's all a process of subjecting ourselves to spells of enchantment. So magic, all my magical practice anyway, I'm sure people have various definitions for it, but my own definition of it is to say that magic is anchored in this awareness, knowing at all times that whatever you engage with or in is a matter of performance. Yeah. So as long as you know that, you are safe. And well, some of it, of course, I would say that given that all these magical trends and discourses, they also have a tradition, right? So if we talk about Western esoteric magic, or, we talk about Eastern magic and all that. So I would say that perhaps my own inclination tilts more towards the Zen practices, where you just go and deconstruct the shit out of everything. It's like anybody says anything to me and I go like, really? Or I go like, not this, not that, like quoting the Heart Sutra, right? So before I buy any kind of belief, yeah, and that goes from believing in my own identity, my own good self, or who the hell is this anyway? Or believing that I'm this rational person who never engages in any kind of magic, let alone that, well, I just don the lipstick, No, that's not magic. Like, okay. So let us convene that is not magic. So let's just put it this way. I don't want to live with that kind of ignorance, you see. So I prefer to just look at things as they are. And this is very much a Zen approach to things.
Yeah, you mentioned magical awareness. And I was wondering if there was any moment in which you sort of realized that this thing that you do so naturally is called magic. Like, was there any moment in which you just went like, oh, so that's magic?
Well, I think, maybe the best example of those moments would be to point to synchronicities, to point to chance events. Maybe that's why I'm so, for instance, just to give now this is a tangent, but maybe via this tangent I can arrive at making a point. I happen to read cards for logicians and mathematicians, so for some reason they are totally enamored in this world, and at some point I thought, okay, I know I like it, and because I also so happens to like math, but then I'm not a trained mathematician. That is one regret I have to take to my grave with me. But these people are trained, they're trained logicians, trained mathematicians, they are professors of physics, right? So for some reason, at some point at least, I had a lot of dealings with this part of the science world, and they were all like they were all like buying the whole cartomantic thing, and then I thought, I wonder what the hell it is that they like about it so much. So we ended up, in fact, talking about randomness, probability, statistics, and that kind of thing, and I thought, that makes, like, suddenly it just makes perfect sense, and then again you realize that, actually, as soon as you also, from a Zen perspective, you also get wise enough to realize that you never have any control over anything. I mean, like, even here, we may have decided to have this encounter, and then sit here, but I mean, a million of things could have interfered, I mean, that is the reality of it, and like you were just saying that you made agreements with other people, and then life comes in, you said, so they have it. So when you think about how we all just live, like, at all, how do I happen to live at all? Then you begin to understand what magic is all about. It's like, it's a miracle that we just get up and breathe. It's a miracle that I get to meet with people who populate the science world, and at the same time are enamored in my fortune telling nonsense, right? And so how do they compute, And then you realize that the common thread, if there is a common thread, then it's there, in our identification of, or our identifying that field of chance, randomness. Like the universe is full of that, So I think that as soon as you start thinking just a little bit about it, and then you begin to observe, and then just things just present themselves to you, or like you have to do something, or you're thinking, oh, maybe I should try this new venture, or maybe I should, and then suddenly, there is something there that enables you either to do it, or else, will interfere with your plans. And if you are magically oriented, then you say, oh, I'm going to take it as a sign. I take it as an omen. So as soon as you put it that way, you go back, or you realize that you are already part of a long lineage of, let's call them magicians, that goes, I mean, it's how many millennia, when you think about how we can trace people's interest in omens and augurs. I mean, it's like we tend to think that all of it took place, or in a more consecrated or specialized way in Mesopotamia, But I'm like, oh, really? How about we go further back than that, And it's all about people just recognizing that things come together in a way that suddenly kind of suits us, and then we realize that we are part of a mesh of things. That's magic, So I mean, that doesn't answer your question to, is there one moment? Because actually that brings me to making the statement about how if there is one, then it's like the sum of all chance encounters that we experience that become informed by a form of perfection, where it's just like, whoa, so synchronous events that you experience that are so mind-boggling, and you think that's it, so, but it's not just one thing, it's the whole thing, Yeah, that's how I would put it, I would actually go to that, to emphasizing or highlighting, the probability, chance encounters, or they're just chance, this very notion of luck, it is something that has always preoccupied me. I'm interested in that. So and it has nothing to do with our own agency. So see, that's the other thing. So in the magical world, conversely, there are also some that get into it because they think that, oh, there is power to be gained, or that, magic equals power, some would say. And that is true. but magic doesn't equal power in the way in which most people make of it. It's not that kind of personal power, because power, I would say, comes exactly from realizing that you are completely powerless, and when you just make your decisions according to what is right in front of you, without making too many prognostications based on inferences that you have zero access to, whose truth, or validation, you have zero access to. You can make 1,000 of inferences and they can all turn out to be wrong, so wow, being powerful is like being right here present, making your choices in accordance, but in accordance also with you realizing that you are constantly subject to conditions that are absolutely external to your own agency. So if you hold that belief, then you're going to be subscribing to my notion of magic. If you don't think that, then you will be buying into what I would call the illusion of power, or I'm just going to sit here and cast a circle. And while the magic as a technology, has also proved to be very efficient in that sense, and people could accomplish all sorts of things. But interestingly enough, if you dive into the grimoires, just about every single grimoire that we have, will contain a disclaimer, or will contain a paragraph and say, please don't try this at home. So it makes you wonder, so why do we have all these disclaimers? Why are they there? So there is such a thing as the ability to achieve something when you engage with magic as a technology. And it's no different than cooking a pie, you go through the motions, you go through the steps, and then you sit and watch, so maybe the shit comes to pass or it doesn't, so that can also happen. Speaking of chance and randomness, there is no such thing as utmost precision when it comes to fulfilling your wildest dream. There are still a lot of factors, feature into it or have to come together, for instance, if you read the manuals of astrology, from the Middle Ages. Now, so you see, the Arab astrologers, in all of their writings, one of the things that they say is that at least 3 things they say, so why 3? I don't know, but 3 is a magic number. Let's go with that. At least 3 things have to come together, so you can't just say, oh, the moon is now perfect. No, the moon may be perfect, but you need 2 other factors, to come together with this other thing. Otherwise, you can forget about it. Sometimes even 200 years can pass between one good election and the next. So what do you make of that? So in other words, even those who have been who have gained the reputation of being strong in their magical practices, even they have approached this from that perspective of, wait a minute, hold your horses, or don't hold your breath. You can do this, follow the recipe, here is the technology, but know also that there are other factors that can impinge or can interfere. It's better when the factors aid you in your aim, but you can't bank on it, or not always. So there you have it. So I go with the observing chance, and how chance brings me maybe closer to having a more interesting life. Let's put it that way.
Wow, thank you. And I also wanted to ask, because you are a fortune teller, and indeed you notice chance, but how does that link with, I think, power and basically knowing that you're powerless while reading the cards?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Well, in a way, you have 2 options. You can see yourself as an all-knowing psychic Some people also think, oh, you are a psychic, and I'm like, aren't we all? Or else, no, I'm not a psychic. I'm just reading the goddamn cards. I sit here with a bunch of cartons, right? That have some weird images on them. You know, what's so special about that? Nothing, you know. So you just happen to have a divination system. You fling the cards, put 3 cards down that have these pictures on them. And if I have something on my mind, you know, lo and behold, there is no way in hell that I will not have access to an alternative window, if you like, or vista, you know, to what I'm already thinking in terms of possibilities. So say, you know, like my favorite example is when I read cards for people, because it's very, very common, you know. They want to know how to score a job. Speaking of, you know, you want to be the next big professor at some big shot university. So how are you going to score the job? So, well, you know, you can always do it the traditional way. Fuck somebody with, with power. Or, you know, I mean, that still hasn't changed. Or I mean, I don't know. So you can think of yourself as being an all-powerful person who has access to knowledge that the other you read the cards for doesn't. That's not my approach. Yeah. So if I have any kind of power over my own medium, that cards, then it's in my own ability to deliver a clear interpretation, a clear message, you know, that is relevant to what the person wants to know. So, you know, when I said to them, like, how can I score the job? You know, I just sit there with the cards and say, well, according to the cards, maybe you want to embody this attitude, whatever it is, right? Maybe you want to be I'm ready to do everything, fine, you know, but on occasion, the cards can also indicate or give you the opposite image to that eager, you know, conquering all candidate. So I say, okay, maybe tomorrow is your interview and then the person is like, you know, and I said, but you know, and I can see you are very eager and you're ready to fling everything and all your credentials and all of that shit. Maybe you should forget about that. And then people are surprised and say, oh, really? I said, well, if you want to go with what the cards are suggesting, some do, some don't, then you should be embodying an attitude that is actually of a more discreet kind. Be more subtle, you know, don't talk too much. So now these two attitudes obviously are completely diametrically opposed, right? So when I deliver a message like that, obviously that alone will entail a form of power, especially if the person says, man, I'm going to go home and do what you did. And then I experience this all the time when people give me feedback, you know, and then they say, I do what you say. Oh, thank you so much. You saved my bacon, you know. Exactly. On occasion, I also had people come write to me and say, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't do what you suggested. And that went like shit. Oh, well. No, of course, I find these kind of testimonials thoroughly flattering. Like, man, am I a good fortune teller or what? You know, I just saw it in the cards. Now, to be honest, I am clueless. I have no idea as to what I saw in the cards was also the thing that was predetermined or what the hell it was. I just deliver what I see in the images taken often quite at the first indexical value, you know, like literally, that is to say. And now, of course, you have a combination. So I always aim to arrive at a synthesis, you know, like how do we read 3 cards together so that we can essentialize their message to one clear line, you know, that's unambiguous. So that's always my aim, you know. I always try to penetrate through that, you know, because things can appear ambiguous, you know, and then that's also the challenge, and that's also what makes it fun and interesting to read cards. So now, obviously, that's very flattering, and I feel empowered. And then the people at the other end who experience either, you know, this way or the other way of the table, you know, the power of the message, they will invariably lay this power on your head, you know, and then it's like before you gain a reputation. And that's all very fine. But at the end of the day, what is it really? It's just a question of stepping into the situation paying attention to what the other person says, trying to understand what is implicit also in that which they do not necessarily articulate. Because you see, in my fortune-telling world, I don't deal with people who are utterly happy. I mean, nobody comes to seek the fortune teller because they are so happy or pleased, or, you know, they come to you because they have something on their mind. They have a problem, they have a challenge, you know, they would like to have an alternative view. And then we look at the cards, and then the cards, they say, well, how about you go here? And they go like, oh yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah, exactly. So go home and do it, you know, and then see how it works. So I think of my practice with the cards as an enticement, you know, to thinking further or thinking twice, if you like.
I also wanted to ask you if there's anything that makes you afraid when it comes to your magic practice.
Oh, no.
No.
No, what? I don't know. What would that be? What do you have in
I don't know. It's just the stigma associated with doing magic, and the fact that it could go wrong, or it could have repercussions, or yeah, you could have encounters that you're not prepared for.
You mean encounters with people, or like, or encounters with magical beings, or
Yeah,
like
with everything.
or spirits, or what do you have in mind?
Yeah, with everything.
Yeah. Well, no, not really. I mean, you know, how shall I put it? I don't want to say I'm old enough to know better, you know. But you know, I think that one of the good things about performing this kind of work is that it also enhances your discernment, you know. So I approach people, and if it's the other world, if we could go with that, you know, this course, where we try to just pay attention, you know, not to just to the stuff that surrounds us, the people that say things to us or do things to us, but also, you know, the ways in which nature impacts on us, or how the wind, you know, goes through our hair, and what message do we get from that? I mean, let's say if we activate that more or less shamanic awareness, you know, some would call it that, you know, or some old time magic, you know, I mean, when you start working with this, you know, one of the things that you develop is actually that you begin to distinguish between the voices, as it were, you know. So like who is speaking with what kind of an authority. And then as far as I'm concerned, because I am here with my own perception, and from a Zen perspective, sorry, there is nothing else other than that, your own perception, not even you exist. You know what I mean? That's a very, very nice and reassuring way of putting it, that will most definitely keep you safe, you know, and or rather free of all these thoughts of worrying about what would I be worrying about, you know. So it's like I'm the one who perceives, and insofar as I am the one who perceives, then I am also the one who can choose to either listen to this or not, or, you know, go with this or not. So in other words, I'm the ultimate God, you know. So if I'm the ultimate God, who the hell is above me? Oh, and what's this power that's going to do something to me? That's just nonsense, you know. So in my own world, that shit doesn't exist. Now, granted, I realize that when that is said, there are enough stories, and maybe I can testify myself, you know, to enough, let's say, not so much the natural world, that the natural world, they don't mind your presence, you know, but it's always like people, yeah, who will object to what you're doing. And the objection often comes as a consequence of their believing that you hold too much power, or you have too much power, or they think that you may have power over them. And then they will be bent for hell, you know, to go against you or try and harm you in some ways, or or indeed place a stigma on you, or invent stories and decide that you are doing that which you don't, start rumors that don't, that are completely devoid of any kind. So naturally we can all find ourselves subject to the evil, that people can inflict on others simply because they have their own agenda. But how does that, what does that do to my own sense of being fearful? Nothing. Because if people want to be evil and they're hell bent on I don't know what kind of evil shit, right? And then they are absolutely intent on spreading the worst kind of rumors about you, or they start inventing that you're doing this and that and you're this black magician or whatever, or that you still, that you are, you can be surprised, right? There is no end to people's imagination, right? So how can you even stop that envy, jealousy? How can you stop that? You can't stop that. Of course, at your own end, given that you have access to magical technologies, you can write the names on a piece of paper and stick it in a bottle of vinegar or something, go with some Romanian folk magic, and say, okay, you are talking too much nonsense, or create a puppet and put it in your freezer, stick some pins in it or whatever. These old time remedies, they were created precisely to placate, as a way to placate these other forces. But still, when we talk about you being fearful, it has nothing to do with that, it's just a way of responding. But that when you respond in such a way, that doesn't necessarily follow, or it means that you are doing it because you are like peeing your pants, you are so afraid that you now need to do something. So that's not my approach,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if I do catch somebody spreading some idiot rumors or just malevolent intent, then I will definitely denounce the deed, and I will go against them one way or another. So and then I can also sit and watch, and say, okay, you think you think you can do this? Well, how about this? Maybe I'm the bigger and badder magician. Huh?
And one last question.
Yeah.
Why do you do magic, and why do you continue this?
Oh, why? Well, it's because, as I said, there is nothing but magic. Everything that we do, insofar as it is the result of our performances, as I started out by saying, random performances, however planned or intended, they're still random because they are dictated by our circumstances. As long as we engage with performances, there is no such thing that is not already magic. Like I said, you get up in the morning, you get dressed, you put on up, you look at your cupboard, and so you make a selection. That very act is already magical. So how will we stop doing that? How will we stop not putting up a front or having a face for people, to recognize or engage with, and then there is always the expectation that we achieve something at the end of it. It's all transaction, So insofar as we have transactions of any kind, from the monetary, financial to relational, of the amorous kind, whatever, as long as we have transactions, we will have magic, because we will always engage with some kind of strategies, that will enable us to make the other do what we want them to do. Hire us for the better position, marry us if we are the marrying kind. That kind of thing, So how can one stop, So as far as I'm concerned, once the coin drops, let's put it that way, once the coin drops about what magic really is, that there is no world that is not already magical, then that's it, So then it's not a question of, oh, today I'm gonna get up and then do magic and I'm gonna be magical, and then at 3 o'clock I will stop, That's not how it works, it doesn't work like that. not for me anyway. So yeah, so that would be my answer. I don't stop, how can you, not even when I'm dead. I don't know who's to say. Maybe when I'm dead, some other bad magician will decide to conjure me up from the grave, and then I will say, okay, now let's see what kind of fun we can have here. That can easily happen. So, who's to say?
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I would very much love to talk to you for hours to an end.
yeah.
But I so much appreciate you giving me this 1 hour of speaking with you because yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And I hope you will have enough sound bites or whatever it is that you want to extract. And as I said, you are welcome to use my name, quote me. I don't care. Even if you have to say bad things, you're welcome. I'm not going to put you in any freezer. So like I said, I prefer my Zen approach to things where I try to be to stay free of sorrow, free of too many excitements, free of fear, So I don't always succeed, but that's my plan. Well, good luck. Yeah, the best of luck, and I hope you stay magical. Yeah, don't just think of it or write about, just perform it. It's all a performance anyway. All right, so I'll leave you now. Okay.